Video. Hi, I'm Amber from Amber's Craft Week blog, and welcome back to another Hey Day video where we go through various pages of the book Hey Day and do activities relating to them. The May 10th entry is another Future Files one, and it's books to sink my teeth into. You've surely been clipping away like mad, collecting articles and pictures that remind you of where you want to live and visit, clothes you want to wear, jobs you want to have. Because that's what the Future Files are all about. So perhaps reading magazines is all you want to do in your off hours away from school. But maybe, baby, occasionally you are reading one of those magazines and it reviews a book that sounds deliciously devilish, or your friend mentions a good read, and you think, that sounds good. But then you forget about it. Hence the Future File, books to sink my teeth into. Grab a folder, record jacket, you know the drill, label it, and start cutting. And if a book or author's name just comes to you by way of mental telepathy, jot it down on a scrap of paper. Scraps are allowed in the Future Files too. So this Future File is very much still a work in progress, as the Future Files are kind of supposed to be. So I'm going to solicit some help from you. So I'm going to tell you what I have so far, and if you have book suggestions for me, please let me know. Now, up until this point, I have been working on my PhD. I just successfully defended my dissertation, sent the big paper off to the graduate school, and so I'm basically done. I'm just waiting for them to send me that final piece of paper, and we're good. Which has meant that I haven't had a ton of time for free reading over the year. Like, I found time here and there. I probably read about, 10 to 20 books, not including things like comic books or really shorter books. Probably like 10 to 20 books a year, which is a decent number. It's not nothing, but it's not that many either. And so far this year, aside from Garfield comic books, I've been rereading my old Garfield comic books because those are always fun. And I've started reading an old Goosebumps book, but aside from those, I have read a grand total of one book, The Roanoke Girls. And some of this is because the second book I picked, Radium Girls, is very heartbreaking and hard to read. This book tries to capture the lives of the Radium Girls and kind of all the horrors they went through. In the early 20th century, radium was being used to paint watch dials, for example. The women working in these factories had to use very precise details, and so the factory people would encourage them to lick the brushes that they were dipping into radium, and we now are very well aware that that's a bad idea. And so this book just kind of details kind of the horrors that they went through and how the companies kind of try to sweep this under the rug and pretend like there's nothing going wrong. I'm a good few chapters into the book, but it is not an easy read. It's very important to know, especially because my field of study is environmental radiation. It's important to know the history of radiation. So it's a very, I think, important book, but it's also a very hard read. And with everything that's going on in the world right now, I kind of just want to read things that are light and not serious. So that kind of foiled my plan. I was kind of okay, I'll just read in the morning instead of checking Facebook. And I've stopped checking Facebook in the morning, but I haven't picked up reading, so I'm gonna try to get back into that a little bit more now that I've finished my dissertation and I'm kind of on a little bit of a break for a few. So I do want to finish Radium Girls. That's the top book on my list. Now the next thing I have on here is more Goosebumps books. Now last summer, my siblings picked up a bunch of Goosebumps books. I don't remember if my brother picked them up for my sister and then she had some already or what, but at any rate, they had a bunch of Goosebumps books, wanted to know if I wanted them. And originally I wasn't really sure if I wanted them. I mean, these are books written for kids, right? How enjoyable are they going to be as an adult? Well, it turns out they're actually pretty good. I had kind of a rough summer last summer, and so these books turned out to be a great escape. They're short, they're easy to read, they're fast-paced. You're just going from cliffhanger to cliffhanger to cliffhanger, but it's actually a really fun, light read, so I had a lot of fun with that. I also have more horror on here, so as some of you may know, I like to write horror in my free time. I also read some horror. I have read a lot of Stephen King in the past. He's kind of been my go-to author. But recently, I've been reading a lot more of other genres, so cozy mysteries in particular. They still have some kind of creepy elements, but they always have, you know, a nice happy ending, happy resolution. So I've been reading particularly cozy mysteries that have witches or supernatural elements. I've been reading some of those. But I'd like to read more true horror as well. And then the last thing I have is the Death by Bikini series. So when I first started getting into cozy mysteries, it was because I had found this book at Dollar Tree. I get a number of the books I've read from Dollar Tree. Like, I'll just be going through the books and be like, oh, this sounds interesting, and it's $1, so why don't I pick this up? And it was called Killer Cruise. And it was basically a YA cozy mystery. And it was a lot of fun. And so I started looking for other books that were similar to that one, and I came across the Death by Bikini series. I've read the first book, and I've actually read it twice. I've started on the second book twice, but every time I start it, it seems like something happens and I get derailed and I don't get to finishing it. So I would like to finish that series. That would be a good thing. Now the rest of what I have, so these first four are like the specific, some of these are really not specific, but the specific books that I have in mind that I want to read. Down here I have books that I like and want to find more like. So one of my all-time favorite books is The Shining by Stephen King. It is a fantastic read. This one is near and dear to my heart because, like, growing up, my favorite movie was The Shining. Not the Stanley Kubrick version, the made-for-TV miniseries. And the made-for-TV miniseries adheres very closely to the books. So I didn't read the book until I was an adult, but when I did, it was very close to this movie, my all-time favorite movie. But also, what I love about this, I mean, it's a fantastic story. It deals a lot with mental illness in a way, I think. You know, I mean, it deals obviously with addiction, but I think you can also read into it. Then one of the nice things about reading is you can read things into it, and as I was reading this as an adult, and as someone who struggles with chronic anxiety, I can kind of see Danny's experiences with the ghosts as like parallel to my experiences with anxiety. You know, this idea that they can't hurt you, they're like pictures in a book. So because of the metaphor that I've kind of associated with it, I have a really deep connection to it. So absolutely love The Shining. Another book that I really liked is Unraveling Isabel. This is a young adult ghost story, and the narrator is hilarious, and it's a really great read, so I would highly recommend that one. And I'd like to find more books like it, so that was one. I also have Woman in White, which is a horror story that I read a few years ago. One of the first books that I just kind of picked up and read. I usually will just like buy the free books from Amazon because I've been a broke grad student for a very long time, don't have a lot of money to spend on books. And some of those are questionable writing quality, like there are some entertaining ones in there, and I've read some really good books from that. There are also a lot of iffy ones. Women in White is one that I actually bought, and it's not good enough to buy, and it was worth the $4 I spent. And it's a horror story about this mysterious woman who starts killing men, and so it's a very interesting book, and I'd like to find more like that one. Now the one book I read this year is The Roanoke Girls, and that one was pretty good. It was another one that came from the Dollar Tree dollar book aisle. That one is pretty intense. There's some disturbing content in there, I will forewarn you, but I thought it was pretty good. And the last one I have on here is All the Blueeyed Angels by Jen Blood. This is one I got for free from Amazon, and it was incredible. Now I went ahead and bought the second book, and unfortunately it wasn't as good, I didn't think. So the first one, you know, is just really, really good. It's dealing with this girl who was raised in a cult, and she's, you know, left her hometown, but now she's kind of forced to come back because there's some things going on, some strange things going on. And so it's a really good book, and I'd like to find more like it. Unfortunately, even though there's a whole series around these books, I read the second one and I really didn't like it very much. It felt too tropey. There was too much of, I'm going to make the main character do stupid things so I can forward the plot, I felt like, which is not something that I like. I feel like you can get people into bad situations without making them the white person in a horror movie. Like, there's too much of this, I have to prove myself, so I'm going to do everything by myself, and I'm just going to go into these dangerous situations, and that's not my cup of tea. So I think it probably is a very good series for a lot of people. But for me personally, I was really off-put by just kind of like the character flip. I felt like she wasn't consistent between the two books. Like in the first book, yes, she took risks, but she was smart about it, like using her head. And in the second one, it just felt like I have something I have to prove. I have to be able to take care of myself and show the world that I am, I can do everything on my own. And I don't want to bring anyone into harm's way. This is all just me. And so I didn't like that as much. But other books like the first one, I'd really like to read. And I haven't written out the rest of the series. I may very well end up reading more of them. But I just didn't like the second one as much as I liked the first one. So, if you've read any of these books and you know books that are similar to them, or if you have any books you think I'd like, let me know in the comments. I'd like to add some more books to this list. And if you are doing the future files of your own, what books are you going to put on there? What would you like to read? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd love it if you gave it a like. If you want to see more videos in the Heyday series, then you may want to subscribe. If you like crafts, you can check out my craft blog, amberscraftweek.blogspot.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.